diva. Vic, right? Tell her I'm a diva.
Hey, Riz, I'm surprised you don't have your makeup people there.
It's too early for them. We're not morning people.
Well, we're live, guys.
Hey, a little humor live is okay.
Totally, yeah, I'm down with
Right?
that.
A little humor live.
Oh, wait. Hold on. The grind is tilted. There you go.
There we go.
But that's reality, right?
There you go. That's why it's live.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our deep dive stream on missing profits. For those who are watching or listening us the first time, deep dive streams are focused on helping entrepreneurs overcome their business challenges. As always, we have our leading networking and marketing expert, Victor Nichols. And today we have our guest, Rizwan Awwal, the founder of Happy to Deliver, joining us. Happy birthday, Riz. And please tell us more about your company, about yourself, and let's start the conversation.
Well, I don't feel a day older than Vic. So I don't know if it's a good thing.
That's good.
It's good. Well, I'm happy to deliver over here, which if anyone knows me, they'll think that it's all about puppies. All right. The CEO. Here's the CEO. I might be the founder, but this is the CEO of the company. What is happy to deliver? I think for any entrepreneur, that's a loaded question. What is your business, right? See, I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. That would be Vic's title. I consider myself as an artist. And it just happens to be that entrepreneurship is my canvas. But I like to create, just like an artist likes to create. I come up with a concept that's in my brain, and I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't think about anything else but this idea in my mind. And until I paint it on my canvas, until I execute on the project, I'm not at rest. So that is really where a couple of my businesses were born from. So Happy to Deliver is a delivery business that's dedicated to the multifamily luxury residential market. So if you think about high rises, mid rises, we provide a delivery service, which is very simple. We take all the packages that comes to the lobby, the front desk, to the concierge, and deliver it straight to the front door. Very similar to Amazon. However, high-rise buildings doesn't have that option. They don't have that opportunity. Amazon, FedEx comes and drops off these packages right in the front, and there's a package overflow issue. And after the pandemic, it got a lot worse. And people aren't changing. They're not going backwards. Deliveries is in. It's going to keep on growing. We are doing approximately 3,000 deliveries a day, 7 days a week, no days off. And I absolutely love it. The name Happy to Deliver comes from, I came from a toxic environment in the past from other companies. And I promised myself that when I create something that's truly mine, I want to be able to add positivity in this world. So it's not just important for me to keep my customers satisfied, but my staff needs to be happy as well. I need to be happy as well. I need to really love what I'm doing, to be true to myself and then to the people around me. And that's where Happy to Deliver came from.
Well, there you go.
So, did I answer the question? I don't know.
No, sure. I think that answered the question excellently.
Okay.
And frankly, I'm glad we got that on film, bro, because that's definitely was an excellent answer to that question. So I think because you and I had a chance to, have a brief chat before this conversation, I know you had some questions, and that's how we kind of came up. That's how we kind of came up with this topic for this particular stream. So I'm going to kind of let you lead in to some of your questions, because I think we only have an hour. So I want to make sure that we get to your questions. And then, of course, the evolution of the conversation will go the way it goes, because obviously when you and I get together, we don't have any problem talking.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But I really wanted to get, for the people who are listening and for the people who will listen, to the topic of, the reason why we actually decided on this particular topic for this morning.
Right. Where did the money go? Right. I believe that's the name of this episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the name, the topic came from, I think, questions that both Victor and Diana asked me. What do you want to talk about? What do you need help with? And that's what deep dive, and that's what Vic's whole podcast live stream, and I think its ethos is all about. It's not even about making money. It's how does he help fellow entrepreneurs? And I love everything about that, because I think one of the thing of a struggling artist, a struggling entrepreneur, so many similarities, is that we want to make sure the struggles and the pain that we felt when we started, no one else feels, and we try to help everyone around us. And I feel like that's what Vic is doing. That's what this live stream is doing. And he asked me, what are my pain points? One of them is, listen, I'm no accountant. Okay. I know how to make money and how to make sales, but where does the money go at the end of the month? Right? I don't understand the difference between a balance sheet, an income statement, a P&L. I thought they're all the same, right? But as I learn more, they're different. You ask accountants questions. I just found out this year, okay, and I just turned 41 today. So I found out this year that there's a difference between business tax and I guess IRS tax, right? I'm sorry, business accounting and business tax.
Yeah.
And these are things I just did not know. I was not educated on, and I am relearning. And that's really the question at the end of the day. Where does the money go? I could tell you myself, if I have, let's say, $30,000 profit left at the end of the month, it's not 30,000 in my bank account, right? And it's 15,000. Sometimes it's negative. Of course, I can calculate, yeah, I'm reinvesting for next month, but does that really mean that I have $30,000 profit? Is the math not correct? Because the math ain't mathing for me. So, so standard accounting rules does not apply for us entrepreneurs, right? If I was working a regular job and let's say I made $120,000 a year, so that'll be 10K a month. Let's say 35% went to taxes. I know I'm walking out with $6,500 in my paycheck at the end of the month.
Right.
Now, as an entrepreneur, as a business, you're left with $20,000, $30,000. That doesn't mean you're left with $20,000, $30,000.
No.
How do you calculate it?
It
Give
does.
me some advice.
I think probably part of this is a Dave Ramsey question, okay? but really, what I found through the years, because this is integral to running a business, obviously, and what I found is what the strong points are. It's clear that it's not so much that it's not a strong point for you, Riz. It's something you really just don't really want to dive into. Okay, because you're running your business, you're doing what you do, and frankly, you shouldn't, because I mean, obviously, you need to know all the things that are going on in your business financially. That's not what I mean. But what you really want to do is, and I learned it probably about 5 or 6 years in. I thought I got myself an accounting package. Now, obviously, I was using, a chisel and a rock because I started my business back in 81, but I got an accounting package. Okay. All right. And started doing my own accounting, because I'm like, what the hell? Why do I have to pay for somebody to keep my books and to watch my stuff and to do that? Because I have to pay them to do that. And I'm trying to keep as much money in my freaking pocket and keep the lights on as I possibly can. So I start doing this. I'm like, how hard can it be? Money comes in, money goes out. You got to pay for shit. Okay, great. And all of a sudden I started doing that. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much more complicated than I thought it was, and I started to begin to realize that I was doing business, not only wholesale, but I was also doing business directly with clients that were consumers, on the street kind of consumers. So now I had taxable clients, and then I had ones that I didn't have to collect sales tax for. And then I was responsible for submitting that sales tax. And I'm like, okay, this is freaking off the chain. So what I did was, as the business grew, I said, I've got to bite the bullet. I've got to get somebody, A, who I trust, B, who understands my business. Not every accountant or bookkeeper is equal. You may call your buddy who is who makes widgets, okay, and say, you know, man, I'm looking for an accountant. I'm looking for a bookkeeper. Oh, I got the best accountant, the best bookkeeper you've ever seen. This has happened to me. And they referred me, and I'm like, okay, there are certain, obviously, rules and guidelines in bookkeeping, accounting, and keeping track of things on a monthly basis, an annual basis, etc. However, they didn't understand my business. They didn't really understand the flow of the business. They didn't understand the cash flow of the business. They were widget people. Okay. They were not services people. I mean, the bulk of my business I was providing, part of it was, half of it was services, half of it was product. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is the investment in good financial professionals will pay for itself 1,000 times over. Okay. And it'll do something really cool. It'll keep you out of prison. Okay. Because as your business grows, little things can turn into very big things. And you don't necessarily know about them in some cases until it's too late. Okay. And that's everything from employee taxes to all kinds of different things. You know, if you're offering, your full-time employees, healthcare, or you're matching, it gets super freaking complicated. It's a full-time job. So now Riz is out there running his business, painting on his canvas. He's got his brushes out. He's doing his thing. And he's got to now go back in and try to figure out, untangle this morass of numbers. Okay. And at the end of the month, yeah, you do need to know whether or not you made money or you didn't make money. But you also have to analyze over a period of time. Start to keep a very close eye over the next 3 months, 3 to 6 months, exactly what you're spending. It can get painstaking, because you and I both know as entrepreneurs that it's hard to keep track of every little thing you do, or sometimes you do something almost on a whim. You got to make sure you're looking at that, and then you can start to see those categories of where that money's going. Okay. Obviously, in your situation, I'm going to hazard a guess that your highest expense is personnel. I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say your highest expense is personnel. So that's the one.
That and Starbucks.
And okay, yeah. Okay, and Starbucks. You and I
feel you. Yeah, we know how it feels.
Hey, Riz, you and I have the same feeling about that. Okay, you go to Starbucks and you're like, I don't know if I should buy a cup of coffee or pay my mortgage.
Yeah. And you know what? It just makes me so happy. I don't even like the coffee there, but Starbucks makes me happy. It's just a cup of sugar, but I'm okay with it. It's a great. If I'm having a bad day, you can take me to Starbucks, or you can bring me some Starbucks. I'm so happy.
Well, hey Riz, as we start to grow this streaming, and we start to grow some of the other projects that we're doing, we're going to get Starbucks to underwrite this thing, because they owe us now. Okay. They owe us for unpaid endorsements. But really, the point I'm trying to make is that I don't know if you're happy with your accountant. I don't know if you're happy with your bookkeeper. And I'm not saying that you need to change either one of them. But what you do want to do is you want to sit down with both of them together, not separately. Sit down with both of them together, unless they are the same person, because some people have the same person who's a bookkeeper and an accountant. But usually you have a bookkeeper and then you have an accountant, who does this, does your stuff kind of at the end of the year, talks to you about, major things that are happening, if you're going to take a loan and what your amortization is and equipment and things like that. So I would set that meeting up sooner than later. And if you have those professionals, if you don't have those professionals, you and I should probably talk about that. If you don't have folks that you trust, and see if we can get you the right people. I'm sure you do. But you also might not be happy with them. I don't know. So, but that's probably the first step, because knowing where that money's going is important. Now, question, do you get a weekly from your bookkeeper or whoever's taking, do you get a weekly statement of where you are? Like sent to you as a spreadsheet, meaning how much money you got in the bank, how much things you got paid, how much things are going to be paid this week. Do you have that kind of a running thing on a weekly basis?
So yes and no. I have gone through a series of bookkeepers, a few accountants.
Okay.
And I've also hopped into different sectors, different industry as well. And as you said, not every bookkeeper, not every accountant is good at those things. Right. I went from owning a restaurant, bar, nightclub, right? To doing e-commerce, and now I am doing a logistics transportation company, right? While I'm still running a couple of those other businesses still
Mhm.
in the back. Um, so I don't blame my accountant or my bookkeeper. They're probably going crazy. But since I am not in the era of the sundial and what it's called, the abacus and all
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah. Because
I automate a lot of my things, and I go through a lot of online sources, and I've integrated a lot of things with my own softwares, which I can pull up reports at any given moment, and I do get automatic weekly and monthly statements. And because of the complexity of my business and my obsession of simplifying everything in my life, right? I'm one of those guys that cannot deal with clutter. I need to declutter my brain, declutter my surroundings, which means I also declutter my business, and I also simplify things. Because of that, I actually customize a lot of things and build my own software, which is probably the real power behind Happy to Deliver and some of the other things that I'm doing. Um, the problem is, Victor, and that's where you really come in handy. And I call you out of the blue sometimes, 7 a.m., 7 p.m., 1 a.m., any given time. Um, and I know sometimes I call you just to talk, but I'm going through something.
sure,
Um,
and I'm happy, and I'm happy wherever I can help. You know that.
and what it is I don't know the right questions. And I think when I'm calling you, I'm a little frustrated because I do employ the people that other successful people have recommended, and I work with them. And then they do their job. Everyone does everything perfect in the beginning. The pitches are the best sometimes. I could do this, I could do that. You don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Right.
I
I can stand on one foot. I can do cartwheels. Yeah. Mhm.
can't believe so and so did so and so. And then after a while, you don't see them, talk to them, hear from them, which is why I have um, got softwares for things and integrated with my own software. But I don't know the right questions to ask, which is where this topic came.
Mhm.
What am I supposed to calculate? How do I calculate? Right, the P&L is, as you say, labor, inventory, overhead, etc.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
then I think that's the question. If we could really come up with that answer today in the shortest period of time, 1 hour, I think millions of entrepreneurs, which has had this question for hundreds of years, maybe we could help them out. There has to be a math. There has to be an equation. I'm obsessed with things like that.
Well, yeah, no, and I think I think what you're asking actually has multiple things feeding into it. Okay, it has the mathematic part of it that feeds into it. It also has the the heart and soul of the entrepreneur. Okay, and the way in which you do business, and also the way in which you interpret information. Okay, that's another piece of it, which sometimes we don't think about that. You and I may look at the same thing, whether it be accounting related or whether it be problem that this customer had or whatever it is. And I may see it differently than you do. It's the same problem. Okay. It's the same set of information, but I may be looking at it differently only due to my experiences, due to my background, due to your experiences, your background, whatever the case may be. So what what I'm really hearing here is it's the deep it's doing the work that's the deep dive in looking at what your actual expenses are. Okay, and you can do it weekly, monthly. I wouldn't do it any further out than monthly. And then start looking at the way in which you a like to run your business. All right, I mean, you said something tongue in cheek, which was about Starbucks. Okay, well, however much money you might spend on Starbucks or however much money you might spend on getting things or taking care of your employees, right? Or saying, hey guys, you know what? Starbucks is on me, or lunch is on me, or let's go out and do this, or let's go out and do that. And oh yeah, we can buy that banner because we need to promote it, this particular thing, because my buddy called me and said he's having his block party or whatever the hell it is. Okay. All of those things, the way you and I would look at them as entrepreneurs, are costs of doing business and a la carte. Okay. You're not figuring those costs. Okay.
Yeah, an accountant will put it under T&E, but realistically, that's marketing.
Right. There you go. There you go. That's exactly it. And you're going to want to see where those, and the reason why you're going to want to see it is it may not change your behavior at all, Riz. It may not change your behavior at all. Or it may change your behavior. Okay. Once you start to look at it in its aggregate, it's one thing looking at what you've spent in the last 4 days. I'm using Starbucks because we started using that analogy. Okay. In the last 4 days. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be straight up. I love Starbucks. Everybody knows I like my matcha, and I go in and I buy my matcha because I got their little, and this is something that they suggested that I do, the people in there, and they got themselves in trouble. I got that little thing, that little app, right? The little app where you're supposed to get points or whatever. But it's connected to my credit card. So when I do it, it automatically goes, and then it shows up as a charge on my credit card, in my wallet. So I was doing it for a while, and then I looked at it after a week and a half, and I'm like, holy shit, I spend this much money on matcha? Really, it added up to amount of money that I had never thought about, Riz, at all. Now, would that amount of money make a huge difference in my overall life? No. Would that money, when you look at it, so I'm spending somewhere around, $2,200 a year. Okay, or $2,300 a year. All right, in matcha.
Hey, sounds about right.
But you see what I'm saying? I never saw it though. I never saw it until I got that little appy thing. So they're the ones who made me curtail some of my Starbucks activity, because I'm like, wait a minute, maybe every now and then I'm going to have some tea at home, or every now and then, because it just by the principle, I'm using that as an example.
Yeah.
You can now start to see, because sometimes the small things are the ones that set off you saying, where did the money go? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I would really, my recommendation is to really dig into it. And sometimes it's painful because you got a business to run. But, I know what that's like. You're like, oh, I don't want to focus on the details because I got to do this big thing, or I have this client I got to deal with, or I got a pitch to do, or whatever. But if you start doing that, like I said, even if you don't change your behavior, you're going to see where your money's going. You're going to then say, you know what? I don't know that I need to do this. This actually is something that could fall to my bottom line, as opposed to me spending money on it, right? If in fact you can't equate that to moving your business forward, okay? If you can't equate that expense to either hard or soft moving your business forward, and what I mean by soft is so obviously sometimes making your employees feel good is very important, right? You know what I mean? Taking care of the people who work with you is absolutely should be job one, but there may be other ways you can do that where it's not going to be as expensive, right? And start looking at that, because it sounds to me that it's not that you're complaining that you're not making any money. Okay, that doesn't sound like the complaint to me. What you're complaining about is that you don't know exactly where the money's going.
Yeah, it's not just about that. It's about there needs to be some type of limitation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, budgeting.
An assessment for really future spending. So, yeah, of course, as a small, medium-sized business, your employees' car breaks down, you end up paying them, helping them out. They get a ticket, repo, take care of them. Their family member is sick, you send them over money, right? These are the things that all, I think, small business owners do.
Most do. Yeah, they'll help where they can.
Yeah, and that's the beauty, I think, of small businesses, and that's why I actually love this world of small businesses, because I think we're really helping the people. We really care about.
We're more like a family. Yeah, we're more like a family than we are working in a giant office.
Yeah. Now, the obsession that we have, though, is this, and I learned this word from a very close friend of mine, who at first I got offended, but it changed my perspective of business and how I operate. She said that everything I do is for greed. man, that didn't sit well. I must have been 35, right? I'm like, what do you mean greed? I help everyone around me. And the next decision I made, I asked myself, am I doing this because I'm greedy? And the answer was yes. Yes, right? If I think about my first success and also my first failure, which is back to back, the reason for my failure was not because of a business mistake, but it was because of my personal greed, right? Because I made my first $1 million, and you know how hard it is to make that first million. And because the math ain't mathing, you don't realize you already made that million. You made it, right? You made that maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago,
Mhm.
but you just didn't realize, and you're operating the same way. And then a dumb, young, fresh newbie millionaire, I'm gonna make 10 million. Okay, now that's why I'm here, and that's why I hope this live stream, this podcast, helps someone else out that doesn't make this mistake. I tell the story all the time. How can I go from $1 million to $10 million in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Right? I need to calculate what is my percentage of profit, what is my percentage of growth, what is my investment needed to get to 10 million? Because to get to $1 million took me almost a decade.
Mm-hmm. Not
And
unusual. Not unusual.
yeah, and it wasn't like, sure, I had a couple of years of 300% growth, but then on average it's maybe 15%, 18%, max 22% growth. um what is that math? If we can and I truly believe, and this is why I keep on bringing it up, I truly believe that we can calculate something that is an average for industries, for all industries, and be specific for specific industries. And we can, it doesn't have to be us, it doesn't have to be right now, but maybe we could start a movement where we could really help out other entrepreneurs and say, hey, by the way, the government calculates 5% for T&E.
Mhm.
In addition, you need to calculate another 15% for your next month's investment. If you are inventory based, then it's 7%. If you're labor based, then it's 22%, whatever the case
Yeah,
is.
whatever. Yeah, whatever's applicable to that particular vertical.
Right. And I think that is really what would help me. I know that my payroll every single month is approximately $65,000. So in that case, it's not, and my payments is what? Some are net 30, some are net 60,
Yeah, right.
right?
Right.
And how do you do that? Math. And when I ask an accountant, they give me, I'm asking for the math. They're giving me so many words and how accounts receivable is also accounts payable. And when you go, I am lost. Math, I'm phenomenal in.
Yeah.
Words, English is my second language. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. No, I do know what you're saying, because you're looking for the straight road, and they're gonna be being very circuitous because they're professionals within their field, and they're not giving it to you in a way in which is palatable for you, and say, look,
they also don't speak business, so it's not their fault. You and I speak business. When I'm asking you for a math, I'm asking you for a percentage or a cushion number
Mhm.
that I need. You could calculate for me. Like, I'm pretty sure in your head you're like, all right, Riz, $65,000. You know what? Realistically, you need to calculate $95,000 because you're doing biweekly payroll, and that's how you should break it down. Break that down by 2 months. Boom, you have an additional 50%, 40% that you need to calculate in.
Mhm.
I'm You could easily do that for me, and you could break it down to what I understand, right? And it's not their fault. They don't speak the same language. They don't even dress the same. We're from different worlds.
Well, actually, I'm going to challenge you on that statement, because the fact
Okay.
of the matter is that you're the client, not them. Okay.
Okay.
And you're paying them for a service. Okay.
Okay.
If they can't deliver the service in a way in which you can understand it, and a way in which that you have a value proposition for the questions that you're asking, you need to replace that person. Okay. You don't have to learn how to speak their language. They have to learn how to speak your language.
Yo no hablar accounting.
We call that customer freaking service. Okay.
You're right. You're
If I'm
absolutely
talking
right.
to a client and they don't understand what I'm telling them or asking them or putting in front of them, my question is, what did I just say to you? Right? I'll say, what did I, and then I'll ask them to tell me back. And they're like, no, that's not what I said at all. Okay. That doesn't mean that that person is not paying attention. It doesn't mean they're unintelligent. It just means that I have to rephrase that question, okay, or that statement for them to understand it. And then I start from the beginning and I phrase it another way, okay, or I deliver it another way. You're people who are servicing you, okay? As long as you're writing them a check, the tables have turned. Okay. You know, if they're doing it for free, that's a different conversation. Okay. If they're doing it for free, that's a different conversation.
Hey, Dwight, you're fired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We don't speak the same language, Dwight.
So if they want to retain you as a client,
yeah,
they need to speak to you in a way in which you can understand it. And and the only reason I immediately went to that is because it's happened to me before. I've had people say to me, even my financial planning people, you know, they would say stuff to me and I'm like, I know you're trying to tell me something. Okay. I know you're trying to tell me something, but I don't know what the hell you're trying to tell me. Okay. You're going to need to stop and reword it and make sure I understand it. That's on you, not on them. Okay. You know, I'm meaning them. If you're talking about, you know, you don't have to do that. You have to say, I don't understand it. I need you to get to my level. I need you to give it to me the way I understand it so we can meet and make sure that we can solve this problem. That's part of it. Because we started this conversation in the beginning of you saying that, you know, you didn't necessarily, you know, the spreadsheets and all of the other things. Well, guess what? It's incumbent upon them for them to simplify that so you understand it, so you can make those business decisions, right? You are the one who are making the financial decisions, not them.
I think you said something that's really key that I hope the listeners picked up on. A financial planner is different than a bookkeeper.
Yep.
Different than an accountant.
Amen. Amen. They perform different services, and you have them for different reasons. They're all trusted advisors. They're all trusted advisors, just like you have an account, just like you have an attorney. Okay. And you may even have an attorney. You may have a tax attorney, depending on how complicated your business is. You may have a patent attorney because you're a guy who's always thinking of things. And you may want to, there might be some ideas you want to patent. Well, you're not going to go to your tax attorney to do your patent work, right? You're going to go to a specialist to do it. So these are all professionals that are trusted within their verticals. However, every one of those professionals' responsibility is to communicate with you in a way in which you can understand it. If not, goodbye, bye-bye. Okay. You don't need them because they're not helping you.
Right. They're not providing me the service that
No.
I need.
And that you're paying them for.
So let me ask you a question. Do you have an accountant that's separate than your tax accountant?
Because my businesses are not, the answer to your question is kinda, but not in how the businesses are run, like not how my businesses are run, because my businesses are not, they're not super complicated from a tax basis. Okay.
Yeah.
So the time where I would consult a tax attorney is if I'm looking to, you know, to do something that's going to be a potentially taxable event. Okay, right. Potentially tax. If I'm going to draw down on something, or I'm going to do, those are sometimes where I might even want to check with a tax attorney just to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. But that's a very rare need. You know, usually a good accountant and a good bookkeeper is all I, you know, and my bookkeeper is phenomenal. She's
and how often do you get your reports? Weekly?
Once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week.
You do it in the beginning of the week, in the middle? What's your?
I usually get them at the end of the week, and that's just a preference, you know. And because it's kind of a muscle, right? They come in, I see them come in, I open them up, I look and see. Okay, all of this looks about, this looks about right. Okay, I see what cash on hand. I see what's in the bank. I see what's being held in escrow, being held in what we'll call savings. You know what I mean? I see what's being held for eventual needs. I see what credit lines are, if we've been taken down on any credit lines, and if so, for what, and what's the time frame of paying that revolving credit line back, so I'm not eating into interest. I can do all of that 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, so I think that's the most helpful thing for me, and I think the other listeners as well. If you had some type of template of what you look for, because again, the problem that I have is I don't know what questions to ask sometimes,
Okay.
and then when we run into issues, none of the issues are there, right? So I believe that every problem can be solved.
Agreed.
Sometimes not aware of the problem, you find out what the problem is.
Right.
Right? And that's why we go to advisors, mentors, because they have already experienced everything. You have experienced everything that I am going through. And at the end of the day, it's I send a letter to myself every year for my birthday. So I woke up this morning, and the first thing I read was a letter to myself from last year. And I've been doing this for a very long time. I can't even tell you how many decades I've been doing this.
Oh, that's very cool.
It's like an accelerated level of journaling for me.
Right.
And one thing that I told myself last year, and one thing that I really get out of it is nothing matters. What frustrated me last year, it doesn't even phase me this year. And seeing those problems, as you get older, you realize as your business gets older, matures, right? Because a business is a baby.
It
And
sure is. It sure is.
And as it matures, I feel like the problems we have today does not matter tomorrow. But the solutions we find is the reason why it doesn't matter tomorrow. And if I can go to you, if other people can go to someone else that's gone through it, which is why I love helping out young entrepreneurs, or even older. Age doesn't matter. It's the age of your business that makes
It is the age of your business, because there's a lot of people who come from corporate America, and they either want or need to continue working, but they don't know anything about this world. You know what I mean? They're proficient in what they do, but they don't know about how to run a business, and they're like, whoa, man, this is like crazy.
I've been doing actual business, since age 14. I mean, it kind of makes me almost a veteran. I'm about to hit 30 years of business.
You have so much to offer. Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I look at, and I was looking forward to this live stream because some of my family members and friends are like, why are you doing this on your birthday? I was like, because I can't imagine anything better than being able to talk to my mentor, to start my day off with this. And I have a hard time getting up, right? Sometimes I have a hard time sleeping. That's a different problem. But if
well, that's an entrepreneur's problem too. But right.
That's a different podcast. But I look forward today. I had no problem waking up today. I was up at 5 a.m. because I realized you're always up every single day, and you're someone that I look up to because of how happy you are. The company's happy to deliver, and I just migrate towards positive vibes, and you're one of them. And the finance part gives me anxiety.
Sure it does.
And when I see you, and when I'm talking to you right now, I realize next year I'm not going to have this problem. I'm going to write a letter to myself tonight, and I'm going to talk about this live stream that we had, and I am going to put it out in the universe. And I bet my financial worries are going to be gone, because I will, which I did not implement, have a financial planner. I will have a better line of communication with my accountant, whether it's this accountant or a new one.
Sure.
I will maybe get, in addition to my softwares for bookkeeping, maybe I'll get an actual bookkeeper. And then by the end of this month, I'll find all the right questions from you, from your experience, to ask. So when I interview these specialists, they know what I need.
Yeah. And I actually would even take that a step further for you too, is when you decide to do that, I'd be happy to sit in if you're going to be having those conversations with them, because I would want to be interested in how, how they're answering the questions that you have, or how we're going to formulate the questions that you feel you want to have answers to. Because then sometimes you have someone just kind of watching, right? Who's listening, as opposed to you being in it and having that conversation. It reminds me of one of my old Star Trek episodes, Riz, where Captain Kirk is doing all this stuff, and the guy and the villain says, "Well, how come you're letting your second in command do all the talking?" Right? Because Captain Kirk's watching. He's watching for the problems. He's letting Spock do all the talking while he's watching for weakness. Okay, so and it's a lesson there. I know it's a television show, but he used his he goes, "Why am I taking your second in command?"
So no problem. I understand.
Yeah. So it's those things,
So Dwight, you're not fired, but my captain, he's going to be in the room with us for a series of questions and interviews. Good. He's pretty much my father.
Okay.
We hired Dwight.
Okay, that was very funny. But I really, really think that this is something that every one of us faces. I mean, what you brought up and you articulated and you wanted to come and have a conversation about is something that I believe the majority, not everybody, but the majority of small business owners, and medium-sized business owners, and even some of the large business owners have this question, and the bigger you get, and here's the interesting thing, it's the kind of thing where if you got a little tiny pinhole crack in a dam, right? And the pressure builds and it gets a little bigger, and all of a sudden that water starts pushing through, and there's not a damn thing you can do once that water comes through. Why? Because you didn't pay attention to the crack. If you are looking at this, and they could be very small incremental problems, as your business scales, which it will, okay, because you've already done this before, you know where you're going, you have a plan. As that scale, that little tiny problem gets really freaking big, okay, over time, because you've now multiplied it, because you're scaled your business. You went from $1 million to $50 million, okay? Your problems don't change inherently. Okay, there's more zeros. But if you didn't fix that along the way, you now have a $50 million problem where you had a $1 million problem. Okay, so that's the reason why you want to look at this stuff very, very carefully. And you have the acumen to realize that you want to get your arms around it. There's a lot of folks who say, it'll take care of itself. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't, because then you're going to be bleeding, right? If I'm calculating X amount of profits, but my reinvestment for future growth, and I think that's another thing that you nailed that a lot of people won't be able to pick up. I'm in the phase of scaling up, so there has to be some type of ratio. If I am trying to triple my business, my expenses will triple, my investments will triple. At that moment, a financial advisor will say, "Hey, take a line of credit," right? There's no reason to eat from the business. And then, and you advise that to me, and that opened up a series of other questions. My accounting needs to be done a certain way. My taxes needs to be done a certain way, right? So a lot of us, and as a younger business owner, I would try to show as least profits as possible. But as I grow older, I want to show more, just because that line of credit is worth more for me. What is paying X amount of taxes if I'm going to get quite a large sum of a loan, especially I feel like if the interest rate of the loans is lower than the taxes that you have to pay, mathematically that makes sense right away.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of ways, Riz, to work out that equation, and they're slightly different for every entrepreneur. Okay. That's why you want to have those deep conversations with the professionals. And I'll tell you something that is interesting. And it was something when I had my partners, Tony and Pam, okay, Tony Jones and Pamela Goldstein, and we became partners, and we were partners for 17, 18 years. When we sat down and we looked at the business and we looked what we were going to do, because I already had my business, they joined me and we, took it from there. We did something that I had never thought of doing. Okay. And they were like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to grow this business in a very deliberate way, which of course I thought about that. But you know what? There were three partners, Riz. And what we did was we made an imaginary fourth partner. And every time we took a draw, we put the equal amount of that imaginary fourth partner into the bank. So we were all taking less, right? We all had to take less in order to fund that fourth partner, right? That imaginary partner. And the reason why we did that is because we were doing government contract and we're like, okay, we're going to look at what the cost of money is going to be to have a line of credit, how long we're going to have to keep that line of credit going before we can pay it back. At that time, the government was paying very slowly. So we're like, we're going to be losing this interest. And the larger those contracts got, the more interest you're going to lose. All of a sudden, that interest becomes like real money. So what we did was we built up our own reserve in order to fund those things. And then when we got to a certain size, guess what we did, Riz? We got to a certain size. We were able to fund our things. We were like, okay, we're just going to disperse what's in that account equally to the partners. So it's just like found money. It was like found money. But along the way, we used it to have interest-free financing of the things that we needed to get done, as opposed to using the lines of credit. We still use lines of credit because some of our contracts were larger. But my point being is that was something that worked for us. And it was something I hadn't even thought of because it requires discipline, right? It requires, delayed gratification, right? Hey, I want to get that extra, $5,000 now. I don't want to I don't want to put it in the bank, that kind of thing. So that's just an instance of planning for some of the things, because scaling can be a very scary thing if it's not planned out. And it can also break you if it's not planned out. You can grow too fast, and you're gonna be like, oh my, now what do I do? Because now you got pissed off clients, you got vendors, you're not paying, all kinds of things happen, and your business, you can go out of business if you go too fast. So also, I know that we're nearing the end of our gig here. Deanna, I wanted you to come back and join us, because I also want you to kind of let folks know who are listening what this is a piece of. This live stream is a piece of, and what we're trying to do as far as building some of the things to have more, to bring more information to people. So I kind of wanted you to kind of give the background on what our plans are and what this is a part of.
Yeah, we have a little more than 10 minutes. These live streams are part of our, there are a lot of things that we're planning on doing later this year. Probably in late July or August, we want to have similar calls, but group calls. Longer ones with different entrepreneurs, different business owners, or sales and marketing people, like anyone who is networking, doing sales, and is involved in business. And we want to have deeper conversations on some of the challenges that people are facing. Those calls will be offline. I mean, not offline, but they will be not live on our social media. They will be on Zoom, probably 2 or 3 hours calls, where we will be diving in questions like this one, and where all the guests will be sharing their experience. So we kind of are building a community of people, who can collaborate, who can share their insights, share their experiences. And we'll be doing those. And in fall, we'll be launching should I say a main program of the year, or it sounds too big? Yeah, we'll be launching our 6 or 8 weeks program, again, for entrepreneurs, business owners, marketing, salespeople, everyone who is involved in business and who needs guidance to grow their businesses. And that program will be, as I said, 6 or 8 weeks long, and we'll be bringing different experts to help people grow and to help people overcome their challenges. So that all ties to us building a community of entrepreneurs, sales and marketing people who can network, first of all, because networking is the main topic of our big social media and of, I don't know, I think it's like the main topic of your life, I would say.
It is. It is. From 1981 till today.
Yeah, every day.
Every day. And then, of course, I met Riz, and I was like, "Well, wait a minute. Now, this is networking on steroids." So,
I take that as a huge compliment because
it's true, bro. It's true. But I wanted to make sure we had gotten that out there so people kind of know that obviously that there are things coming, but B, that this is an ongoing process and a building process. And we're interested, I'm interested in growing, and we're interested in growing a community, right? Valuable community, and a community that has, interactions with folks, can solve some problems, can, all the information that you have, Riz, there are other people that, need that knowledge.
Yeah.
We need that knowledge. So if we are providing this platform, or we're providing this ecosystem where now folks can start to share this information, it's a win all the way around. It's a win all the way around.
I agree because your network is your net worth. And at one point, it's never about the money. It wasn't about the money when we started. It's definitely not about the money towards the end. It's this idea that we have, and this idea keeps on exponentially growing. And sure, you need money to sustain everything, but the beauty of a bunch of like-minded individual in one cluster, it just creates the most beautiful things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you're doing this. You guys like the father and mother, and you're about to have some beautiful children together of a bunch of entrepreneurs.
We're gonna push this thing out. I think, for me too, is that, you reach a point in your career and you reach a point in your evolution where you're like, look, there's a lot more to do, and there's so many great people that I've come across and know through my career. I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I can be that conduit to bring those people to others.
Right? And it re-energizes you, doesn't it?
Oh my God.
It just
absolutely. I love it because every day's different, every situation's different, every interaction's different. But then it's kind of like it's like, I don't know if you know the game Concentration, the card game Concentration. Somebody will say something to me, and I'm like, I know exactly who you should talk to.
Like certain things that I appreciate, like Diana. Saturday, she had no problem with the Saturday morning meeting to do a sound and video AV check over here. A lot of people that are in a certain lifestyle, let's say corporate lifestyle, no, Saturday is their hard stop, hard no. I was late. I wasn't late by 15 minutes. I was entrepreneur late, like 2.5 hours, 3 hours. She wasn't mad. I was like, and I said, hey, listen, I know it was my fault. I had a meeting which ran late. Just give me the information. I'll do it myself. So I hopped in. She wasn't mad because she's a like-minded individual. She understands, and that's a beautiful thing, I think. And sometimes I think as an entrepreneur, even though we're surrounded by a lot of people, I think it's a lonely world. I'm a weirdo. I'm a strange person. I guess people call it work, working 7 days a week. It was my birthday last night at midnight. People were like, where are you? I was like, in my office. Like, do you have work? I'm like, no, I just want to be here. I'm like rearranging furniture and everything, reflecting on my past. And
brother, absolutely.
And I can't relate to a lot of people like that, right? Family, relationships, but this network that you're building, I wish you guys all the luck. I hope to be a part of it, and even if I'm not,
you already are, my brother. You already are. You can, whether you want to be or not.
Yeah, we're slowly getting you in, so you don't see the big change.
I'm dragging you in, my brother.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing, and just to circle back, if that's okay, about the topic, because I think that there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of live streams, a lot of knowledge in the world. There's a lot of coaching platform and everything. But I go to you because you give me actual usable information all the time, and I love that about you. So
Appreciate you saying that.
to close off, just to reiterate, and just give me quick high level summary of what you think I should do next. What is your advice, Vic?
Well, the first thing you're going to do next is what we talked about earlier is let's get those professionals in a room. Okay. The ones that you're currently using, let's get them in a room. All right. And let's
Dwight, get in here.
let's have that conversation of, I really need clarity on what this is. And I need you to tell me this in a way in which I can digest it. If you cannot, please go back, rework what you're going to say, and then present it to me in a way I can understand it. If you ultimately cannot do that, then we have to make some changes. Okay. That's job one, because you need to understand where that is, and you need to understand it in a way that's easily palatable for you, right? And that you can make business decisions based on the information. Your decisions are only as good as the information you have in front of you, right? If you don't have good information, you can potentially make bad business decisions.
Right? And you don't mind being in the room with me? So
I do not. I actually will be in the room with you. I would love to, because I think I could be helpful in trying to bridge that, because everything, and we say this all the time, and I have this conversation with Deanna and so many other people, 99% of things can be solved with good communication.
Do you think I could have you in the room for 1 to 2 other scenarios?
Sure.
When I am dating a new person, I would love you to be there to ask the right question. And then when I'm also breaking up with that said person, the way you terminate people is just so nice. I love that.
I would be honored. I will absolutely interview. Okay.
Can we do it live?
And you can explain to them, Riz, that, oh, by the way, this is going to be your dismissal interview, but I'd like you to have it with Vic, if that's okay.
Yeah, we need that content, for our social media. So please, let's do it live.
The way you just said that, I was just thinking about past relationships. Like, wow, if I said it that way, you know what? I'm just gonna outsource this to Vic from now on. Get your 6 to 8 week coaching program. We're talking about 1 day relationship termination.
We'll have to add that as a module, Riz.
Yeah.
We'll have to add that. Entry so and exit. Okay. I love it. Oh God. Oh,
yeah, we have a few minutes left. Tracy, Trey, and Ali are wishing you happy birthday, Riz.
Oh,
so I guess it was a great start of your new year.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm happy you were a guest on our podcast. No, it shouldn't be. I don't like calling it a podcast. I like more calling it a deep dive stream. Yeah, I think there is more meaning to it than just being a podcast.
Yeah, because
I gotta invite you guys to my podcast. I got a little over 40 episodes in right now. So I
want to be 41, brother.
There we go. Representing my age.
I love it.
Thank you for having me, guys.
This was fantastic. Thanks, Riz. Thanks for the great topic, and thanks for an incredible conversation. Deanna, thanks for coordinating everything as usual. And we're going to keep this moving. Let me know when you and I can schedule offline when we want to have that meeting.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah. Have a good day, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you, Deanna. Thanks, Vic. Bye.